Welcome everyone to episode 51 of Thrashcast. My name's Ken, and tonight I'm your host. Joining me are my co-hosts Billy and Jim. How you guys doing tonight?
Oh, good.
Awesome.
Awesome, good to hear. So we do have a killer band picked out tonight to discuss. But before we get to the band, I'll just give you a little bit of info on where to find our podcast. You can check us out at www.horrormetalsounds.com. You can also go to the YouTube channel, just look up Thrashcast, it'll come right up. You can also find us on Spotify and on Rumble. And at this point in time, we are very, very happy with the love and support we're getting. We do appreciate it. So any feedback or any engagement we get is encouraging for us. It helps us with just to know that we're getting some love, and we know that Thrashcast is getting out to people. And of course, it helps the algorithm. So that's like very, very important. So as I mentioned tonight, the star of the show is this killer band that I call killer band of horror metal, or one of the very first kind of horror metal, thrash metal inspired bands. Basically, lyrics are inspired by a heap of death metal vibes, and this band is Rigor Mortis. Maybe not the best known band, but a band that I've always loved and hold near and dear to my heart. So before we get to all that, we'll get to our news and spinning items. And Jimmy, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, cool. I don't really have any news items. I actually didn't look anything up. I was like, yeah.
Well, I have tons tonight.
Okay, great. But I did pick up a lot of cool stuff, and I got a big bonus at work last week, so I'm just spending money like crazy.
Nice.
I want to get the new Rush box set, but man, I'm $149 for like 4 previously unreleased live and studio. I don't know, man. That's a lot of money. But anyways, I'll probably pick it up. But to start, I got to start with Warbringer. Wow.
Woo! Yeah.
I mean, this is probably buying for my number one pick for 2025 right now. It's between this and Dream Theater. I want to go with this because it's a thrash album, and it is a killer thrash album. And we are Thrashcast, and we have to support the thrash genre. But I mean, I love Dream Theater and the Halo Effect. All 3 of those were in my top 3 right now. Right now, Warbringer is there. This album is amazing, and I didn't realize it when I bought it, because I got it at my local record store actually, because it was so expensive online. But it's a 2 CD. It comes with a live portion. So I didn't realize that when I bought it, because it was like $24 still. And I was like, I don't care. It was the only copy they had. And then when I got it home, because it doesn't really say, it just says live bonus disc on the bottom. And then when you look it up online, it gives you the breakdown of the songs and that. But my God, there's some great tracks on this album. And this band, I'll be honest, this is my first album I have from them. I've already ordered a couple of their previous albums that are coming in. So
Order the first album, Jimmy.
About that.
Order the first album.
Yeah.
Without End, that album is amazing.
That's what everybody's saying.
Yeah, that's my favorite album from the band is the first one.
Yeah, I think you can. I think you'll want to get them all.
Yeah.
Personally, my favorite is the last one, but
right.
But yeah, they're all great. Yeah. We know you, Jim. You'll get the first, and then all the others will be in the mail.
Yeah. And at the same time, I picked up the new Cradle of Filth album.
Nice.
I got to be honest, I'm not a big fan, but this album, it was $15, so that really tied me into buying it. And I got to be honest, there's some really cool songs on here. It even has maybe some hints towards death metal on it. Some of the tracks, actually really good. I don't know if I go back and maybe listen to their catalog a lot, but I did pick this up and I actually really like it. Been spinning it like crazy. And cool. There's a couple of good songs on here. Ex Sanguine Draculae is wicked. There's some great tracks on here. And lastly, I picked up the 2012 edition, the 30th edition of Screaming for Vengeance. Nice. So I had to... I've been watching this for a while. I wanted to get it. It's got the DVD on it, so that's pretty cool. I mean, I have I've got this on vinyl, cassette, and then probably 2 CDs, so didn't really need it. It's got the different graphics on it, just kind of neat. But it was just at a really good price. I wanted to get it for my collection, and there's some good bonus stuff on there and that. But a great week overall. I got a whole bunch of stuff on order, so.
Nice.
That's all I got, guys.
All right. How about you, Billy?
Yeah, just in terms of quickly what's spinning, the new Hyrax
Oh,
album.
nice. Yeah, you got that.
Nice.
Awesome.
So yeah, I picked it up at Hell's Heroes, so
Nice.
Faster Than Death. It's interesting. Yeah, I've been playing it a few days now. Great album. It's like classic Hyrax. It's funny though, it's only 21 minutes for a full-length album, so that's a little
Wow.
different. Um, and then finally got my hands on
Ah,
one of the cool things with Hell's Heroes is they have
Nice.
like amazing record vendors there. So yeah, I ended up getting like, I had a whole bunch of stuff that was on my list. So this was the latest Nasty Savage, Jeopardy Room. So I don't know, this was on my top 10 list. I feel it went a little unnoticed. So Thrash fans, please check that out. I think folks will like it.
well, the big problem there is that, like, my CD is still on back order.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
wow.
exactly. I was just lucky to find it at this little
Yeah.
here. It was some limited print of like 250.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't know if that's all they did, 250 in total, at least for vinyl. But yeah, I had no luck finding it. None of
Yeah,
my record stores could get it. Nobody.
Yeah.
that's weird. Billy,
Yeah.
didn't you also post an image of Ronnie with the blood on his face?
Yes.
Yeah, you did. You did. What was Billy? Wasn't it Billy? You?
Yeah, no, that was me.
Yeah,
So
that's what I thought it was you.
yeah, no, the and this is my first time seeing Nasty Savage live. So like I know they're a crazy band, but like
Mhm.
so I don't know how normal this is, but like Ronnie had this TV on stage, but not like today's thin screen. Like one of those TVs of 20 years ago that weigh like 100 pounds, with the backs that come way out. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, so he's playing and singing, he's walking around pulling the cord, then he's planting flowers on it and he's eating an apple off of it. And then he starts like lifting it over his head and dropping it on his chest.
Oh,
He did that a couple of times. Then he dropped it on his head. Uh,
oh,
and he completely split open his forehead.
oh my God.
He's playing and performing. The blood's gone all down his face, down his chest. And he's like whipping broken TV parts out not whipping, but tossing them
Yeah,
into
yeah.
the audience, which I'm sure it was like an insurance nightmare for the owners of the festival. Because
Yeah.
somebody gets a sharp edge in the eye. Then he's like, yeah, this is a big gross too. He has like band photos and he's tapping them in his blood,
You.
shooting them out to people, and it was just pretty bizarre. I mean, musically it was great, but that was just it was like old style wrestling meets thrash metal.
Yes.
What it really was. So
I'm
I'm
sure you got
guessing,
Gigi Allen.
yeah, he's got to be some kind of wrestling fan or something. But
Yeah.
and
It
then
sounds
you,
like a hardcore match.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
ECW.
And then he's walking around the rest of the festival. He's got all bandages
Oh
on.
my gosh.
So God knows if he actually needed stitches or not. I don't know, but it was bleeding pretty bad.
So did he
Wow.
break the glass like right down over his head, or did he just?
No, like the glass didn't break. It eventually broke because he kept smashing it on the ground. But it kind of like one of those things. It dropped on his forehead, and the
Oh,
glass like kind of, I guess, rubbed all the way down and ripped open his
Oh,
friend.
man.
So yeah, I mean, if it would have broke, it probably would have did less damage on him, right?
he would have knocked himself out.
Yeah, I guess he could have knocked himself. Oh yeah. I don't know. I don't even know where he finds those old TV sets. Like I said, they're those, I forget what they're called, but they're like, it's from 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
a big clunking set. Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
Is that
Uh,
it for you, Billy?
Yeah, no, yeah, I think that's it. I mean, other than to sort of, give folks a quick update, like I mentioned, I was just at Hell's Hero.
Yeah,
So,
go for it.
again, and folks can put in comments whether they like these updates or not like these updates. But Yeah, I mean, I think it was another well-run festival, March 20th to 22nd. They had a pre-party on the 19th. Takes place in Houston, Texas each year, a place called White Oaks Music Hall. They have a large outdoor stage, so not a lot of U.S. Canada festivals have the outdoor stage, and then an indoor concert venue. You could
Okay.
walk back and forth between the two in like 2 or 3, 4 minutes. One of the cool things about the festival is, I don't want to, be stereotype things, but it's real heavy metal. So you're not going to
Mm.
find any new metal, no gimmick bands. So it's traditional metal. There's always plenty of thrash, and they throw in a couple death and black metal bands. And this year, one of the headliners was black metal. Abbott did a special immolation set for his headline gig. So that was pretty cool.
Okay.
The festival's known for bringing bands who haven't played in a long time. So a couple of those would be Crimson Glory, don't play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Gamacide, speaking of thrash, an amazing Texas thrash band from the late 80s, and then Liege Lord
Yeah,
uh,
usually,
put
yeah.
on a killer show. So that's their specialty. But also like the opening, the pre-fest. And it feels stupid to call something that, a pre-fest that has Satan, Riot, Hellstar, and Liege Lord as like the 4 final bands and like 10 other bands. So it's like a whole little mini festival. But yeah, some great performances. Gamacide, for thrash fans, you got to check that album out. Essentially one of the best thrash shows I've seen in years. That's
Cool.
how good it was. It was just blew my socks off.
And
Uh,
I saw
DR,
your video of DRI.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw
So
that.
DRI did like half a set for Thrash Zone. That was crazy. You know what was cool? Do you guys like the band SA Slayer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I've heard of them. Yeah, yeah.
So that was cool. Like I believe the singer passed away, but
Yes.
they had
Yeah.
Jason McMaster step in and do vocals.
Oh, nice.
They brought Dave, the drummer of Sacred Reich.
Okay.
They brought that cool guitar player from Watchtower, and then
Okay.
had the original guitarist. But that blew me away. That was incredible. Cavalera did the first EP and the
Nice.
2 albums.
Mm.
Then he threw in Beneath the Remains and Arise. And so I'm so used to Derek Green singing that. It put a smile on my face to hear
Nice.
Max doing that as well. Satan was so interesting. The lead singer had me in tears, laughing. So hate is not an accurate word. I mean, loathes, detests. He hates like crowd surfers. He
Oh,
hates
God.
mosh pit people, and he hates anyone who doesn't just stand there and watch. And so the audience was driving him nuts. Like he was pointing
Yeah.
at people, calling them assholes, telling the people in the pit that his 2-year-old grandson behaves better than him. He couldn't even stay on his game. He was so frustrated and angry. Right? Like he's got to realize he's in North America, right? People do this. Like
Yeah.
the crowd surfing, he went nuts. Like the one guy kept doing it. He called him out. Um, and they played twice. So we had to go through this twice during the festival. And the best part is like the audience was getting upset at the way he was doing this. So they,
Yeah.
they totally put him over the edge. They went and got the garbage pails and people jumped in and they crowd surfed in garbage pails.
Nice.
As soon as the singer saw that, he went ballistic. He's like, now I just seen the biggest bloody idiots in the world. And he's pointing at them. Now they're just getting him irritated on purpose. It was classic. Like, oh, it's so much fun. And then lastly, Saxon blew me away. Uh,
Cool.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what I really liked is they actually reproduced a set list of 1982's The Eagle Has Landed. So
Wow.
you literally got the oldest material, and they threw a couple other tracks in there. So yeah, really good festival. Again, anyone who's doesn't want to travel as far to Europe but wants a great run festival, always highly recommend this festival to try, and very fairly priced.
How did the Saxon's guitars sound with Tatler? Awesome.
Oh yeah, I mean Saxon, I would probably argue the best sound of the entire festival.
Wow.
Nice.
Like
Wow.
if I'm going to say a negative this year, they did have some problems on the outdoor stage with a number of bands over 3 days. Like I'm not sure why, like where instruments would cut out. So it's funny, like when there's two guitar players and one guitar suddenly stops, like the bass just dominates the mix. So
Yeah.
it sounds so much thinner. So they would have to work on it and then they'd have to stop. And so that's unusual, but you know, I guess shit happens. So, but other than that issue, it was, yeah, very well run, great festival.
Cool.
Oh, all right. Glad. Thanks for the report. I love the name. I just love the title name, Hell's Heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so fitting, and I like the fact that they bring a lot of like Texan kind of Texas-based bands, which is kind of cool too.
Yeah.
And you know what? I read online, like a lot of my friends and that have gone say it's such a fun event. Like it's really a fun event. It's not too big, and it's
Yeah.
really manageable.
Yeah, it looks like a fun. It looks like a fun time.
The max capacity of the venue is 3,000.
Okay.
I'm nowhere near max, so I don't know. Maybe there's 2,000 people.
Cool.
Yeah, it still has that small feeling,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. And you can leave the venue too, right? Like that's an improvement. You used to only be able to leave in the afternoon. Now this year you were able to leave in the afternoon and night. So like one block away is like a really cool brewery. So we would leave the festival, go have a beer, sit down, and then go back and see like the next band. So
Yeah.
you get a lot of cool things like that there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wicked.
Well, that sounds great. I'd like to go sometime.
Yeah, we should go. We should tag along with Billy one of these times.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, no, that's a good one to go to.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, so I have a lot of news items. This was a very interesting week for news. The Haunted announced their 10th studio album, which is great. They did release their first song. What is it called? Now the album's called Last Resort. They released the first single, Warhead, which looks pretty good. I liked it, so I'm kind of curious where they go with this album. Sounds like The Haunted to me, so I'm looking forward to that. I think the album is due out on May 30th, so we don't have too long to wait for it. And then this one I like. It's interesting for me because I'm a huge Triumph fan. I grew up with that band. They're from Toronto. I've seen them many times play Toronto. I've always been a huge fan of the band itself and Rick Emmett and everything. So they're releasing what they're calling Magic Power, the All-Star Tribute. And it's going to basically be guest vocalists and guest musicians. Now, they didn't name the musicians involved, but they did name the vocalists that are going to be on every song on this album. And what caught my eye was the fact that Joey Belladonna is doing Magic Power, which one of my favorite Triumph songs. And I'm thinking, I can't wait to hear him sing this song. So yeah, they got Sebastian Bach on a couple songs. Dee Snider's going to be on some. Lawrence Gowan. I think Dean Castronova is playing drums on one. Phil X is playing guitars on one song. Jack Blades is involved. So they've got a lot of people on this compilation album. So it comes out in June. I'm definitely gonna buy this because I'm a Triumph fan. So
yeah, me too. I like I wish they would have included the Svengali Spellbound cover from Svengali. Holy shit, that's a really good cover off their last album. I think that came out a year or two ago. I gotta admit, they did one hell of a good job on it. It would have been really cool to have like a Canadian, like with a Canadian band. That would have been really cool. That's a really good cover. I think maybe Sebastian Bach is doing that one. I think maybe.
No, he's doing 24 hours a day on Rock and Roll Machine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You can actually hear Rock and Roll Machine. It's on YouTube. That song.
Yeah,
it's okay. I thought his rendition was it's all right. I'm not a huge fan of Sebastian Bach. I thought it was either.
It's funny. Dee Snider works his way onto every single tribute.
Yeah, you're right.
Every single one.
And he's doing Late on the Line. Yeah, I know. He's doing Late on the Line, and I like that song, but I'm not too sure how it's going to sound with him singing it. But
yeah, his voice is so different, hey? Like
I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Nancy Wilson from Heart's playing "Fight the Good Fight."
Oh,
I
that's
like
cool.
that song, but so that should be an interesting rendition, I would think. Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see. Lawrence Gowan's playing "Somebody's Out There," so
Oh, that's cool.
I like that song. I think that song is tailor made for him because it's more of a commercial era triumph with the later albums. So I'm looking forward to this album. I'm very curious to see how it's going to go.
Yeah.
So that's coming out. That's in June. And then I saw that oh yeah, Kirk Hammett made an update on his first full length solo album. Now he talked to Rolling Stone about it, and I know he put out that EP Portals in 2022.
Yes.
This is actually his first full length album that's coming out, and we'll see what it's going to be like. He said it's going to be a mixture of like classical sounding music along with like some punk vibes, some sort of how did he term it now? He said some funk. Yeah, actually funk. It wasn't punk. It was funk vibes. Some progression. So and some heavy stuff he mentioned. So we'll see how this goes. He did mention he's got one song called Mysterion, which is based on ancient Greek texts that apparently he's been reading. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. Now he mentioned this in conjunction to his first book, or not his first book, because I have his horror book collection of horror collectibles, but this is his collection on guitars. So it's called The
Yes.
Collection of his vintage guitars. So that's kind of neat. So I guess he's got stuff outside of Metallica going on.
I
And
didn't
Well,
his
and on
mind,
top of
I
that
didn't
too.
mind that first solo album. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Portals, yeah, I like
Yeah,
Portals
I
too. It
liked
was very like progressive soundtracky. Didn't you
it.
think so, Billy?
Yeah, no, it was different for sure,
Yeah,
right? You wouldn't, if you bought it expecting Metallica, you didn't get it. But I
right.
liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it too.
Yeah.
I like soundtrack music, so I have a huge collection of that. So for me, I thought, oh, this is bold and it's different. You didn't expect, heavy thrash riffs for like a solo album. So I thought it worked. So we'll see where this goes. I'm very curious about it. And
And
then
Metallica just released that live in Mexico kind of,
yes,
which I hope they put it on an album or a CD. I don't know if they are planning on it right now. I think it's just digital, but I listened to it today. Whiplash and One sound amazing. It's only I think 5
oh,
songs, but
okay,
really really cool. You know what? And this is what pisses me off. Small little rant here. This is I know the tour is now and they released the album back, but this is the type of shit I would rather have as extra
mm-hmm.
stuff than
Mm-hmm.
just tons of new
Long
material.
songs.
Yeah, because that Whiplash, it sounds good on there. One sounded really good too.
Okay,
And Red.
yeah, I haven't heard it, but I'll make a point of listening to it
Yeah.
to see what it sounds like. And then the big kind of other news, which is a bit strange, the whole Exodus tour news. First, you had DSC, they dropped off because of scheduling conflicts, and then Possessed joins, and now they have to drop off because Jeff Becerra's under all kinds of weird, I think, medical and also legal issues or something. They had to drop out, so they threw Havoc in there, which is all right. I mean, I like Havoc. I know Bill, you said you recently seen Havoc,
Yeah.
not too long ago, so that should be interesting. I hope the tour is good. It sounds like they've got some issues, but I like the title, Swarm of Horror. Sounds great. I don't know what's so horror about Exodus, but it is what it is.
The crazy thing, Ken, was that when they announced Deicide dropping, Deicide were like, "Oh, it was due to a scheduling conflict."
Right.
So it's like, what does that mean? So you forgot you were booked for a whole entire month and doing an entire tour? Like that's the most bogus excuse I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, I know. Maybe there's something more going on there. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
You're right, but it is very strange. Like, wouldn't you have not know? You would have known that before you agreed to go on the tour.
Well, that's my point. Yeah, like if you agreed to do a whole month tour, you must have checked your schedule.
Well, if you want my honest opinion, I don't buy the whole Exodus joining with DSC. I don't get the connection. I don't get the Possessed makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
If you're calling the tour Swarm of Horror, well then I would think Possessed is tailor made for this kind of a tour. But I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
I know it's a short American tour, so
Deicide, like they just don't match. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
you know,
That's
I
what I
was
mean.
like, really? Exodus and Dia, you've got Bay Area versus, like, I'm thinking in my mind, really? Okay, fair enough.
Florida death metal.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I know.
and very
I don't get
extreme
it.
death metal.
Yeah, very extreme. Yes, yes. Yeah, I don't get it. But I mean, I guess Havoc is fine to be on the bill. They're not like a huge name. Um, I'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Ken, when you were reading about, I saw a headline in my newsfeed throughout the day. It was that same interview with Kirk. Uh,
Yeah.
Apparently, he made a comment about like a potential direction for a new Metallica album,
Yes,
and
he
he
did.
was
Yes.
saying like load and unload
Yes.
Yes.
is
Yes, he
sort of
mentioned
a
that.
possible direction they're
Ugh.
considering. Like I don't know all the context, but that was the headline.
So what he said in this interview was that he's got riffs already going for the next album. He said he's pretty much ready to go. And then he added this comment at the end. He said, well, we did discuss the idea of doing another Load album, and we thought that would be cool. And I'm thinking, are you fucking kidding me? No, 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 no Load. No, we don't need another Load. I'd rather continue with the 72 season side of things. I don't want to hear
Yeah.
Load. God, no. But that's what he said. So I don't know how true that is.
Yeah,
It was one of those kind of added on at the end. Yeah, we might want to do Load because we think it's going to be cool.
Okay, that caught my attention.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Oh, I saw it and I read it and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? No, we don't need no Load. No, no.
Well, the headline that I saw was Kirk Hammett says fans are wanting Load and Reload now, are really embracing it. It's like, so I wrote, no, I'm not.
No fan. No true Metallica fan is pining away for Load. I can tell you that right now.
No.
Like, give me a fucking break. Like, I don't even know why you'd even say that. Like, dude, give your head a shake. It's not gonna happen. No one wants that. No one's gonna buy it. Well, I shouldn't say no one's gonna buy it.
I'll buy it.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I'm sure there are younger people who didn't.
I'm an idiot.
Oh no, I mean, no, I'll buy it too, Jim. I mean, I buy all this stuff, so it's
Billy.
not.
I won't buy it.
And you would buy it, Billy?
No, I won't.
Oh, you won't. Okay,
No
so
way.
Billy,
I
Jim
didn't
and
even buy 72
buy all this stuff.
Oh, you
What's
didn't buy
that?
72 seasons?
No.
Oh, geez.
I have that. Yeah, I got all their albums. I even have Lulu for crying.
I don't have Lulu.
I have that. I didn't buy it. It was bought for me as a gift, but I have.
Here's a comment I'll make. I hate the Load album, and I know everybody more than I hate Saint Anger. Load is where they broke my heart. Saint Anger was just a repeat of them doing it over and over again.
Saint Anger is actually worse, dude.
I agree.
Saint Anger is the worst album I've ever heard.
Oh,
Awful.
same here, but I just hate Load worse because by the time Saint Anger came around, I was already a non-believer.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Oh well. We could go on for hours with that talk. I know.
Another episode.
All right, so let's get down to what we're talking about tonight, and that is the debut album from Rigor Mortis. They are from Texas, so that kind of ties into Billy's little jaunt over at Hell's Heroes. Now, Rigor Mortis formed in 1988. Before we get into a little bit of a bio, I did put up some questions to give you guys and ask you guys to comment on some things. So the first question that I came up with is, what do you really think about the band's thrash style? Because it's not 100% thrash. It's a very unique style, I think. And do you think it is like a proto death metal style? Because I know a lot of critics and people say it is. I don't personally think it's death metal. I think there's elements of it, but I don't think so. What do you think, Jim?
I mean, I like it a lot. I like this. The sort of, some of it even has a doom feel to me, especially on the original debut. But I mean, oh man, I find the debut really heavy, darker thrash. Yes, it's got elements of death metal. Like you're looking at track 3, and we'll get into it. I don't want to like give it away or anything, but Bodily Dismemberment's got a lot of really cool death sort of sounds to it. Yeah, and I mean, it's really, I like that sort of, I like thrash death kind of mix because I'm such a huge death metal fan as well. I found, though, on their later releases, I mean, maybe this will fall into another question, but like I found it went a little bit more I think the vocals went a little bit more heavier and darker on
Different
the
vocals,
latter,
though.
the newer stuff
Yeah,
than
different
on the
vocals.
original
Yeah.
stuff back then. And I don't know if I really am a big fan of that, although I found it got kind of monotonous on the newer albums. But I mean, this debut album's phenomenal. And yeah, it has a huge proto death sound for me on it.
Okay. All right, cool. And what do you think, Billy?
Yeah, no, I think it's safe to say that there are some
Okay.
proto death elements, particularly at times Bruce's vocals, right? He has a
Mhm.
couple sort of like a perfect example would be his opening scream in Die in
Mhm.
Pain, right? Like that
Yeah.
kind of has like a death metal feel. So like I can hear that. There's some intense drumming sections.
Yes.
Wouldn't sound out of place on a death metal album. The the incredibly raw production would
Mhm.
also fit with death metal. But having said that, like the highlight of this album for me is the guitar work, the bass work,
Mhm.
The bass.
Yeah,
and the
Mike
riffs.
Scott. Yeah.
And for me, that's just rooted in thrash. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
like I just can't call that death metal. So I think it's a fair point to raise that there's some early proto death elements. But I would argue this was what, 88?
Yeah.
88. Yeah.
88, yeah. So like I would certainly say Possess had more elements. I feel a
Yep.
proto death metal. And certainly, I guess, stupid point, but Death, who was probably, the other band who was kind of the first kicking around this time and even earlier, would certainly have more death metal elements.
True. True. Yeah, I can see that. I think a lot of people, maybe it's just all the lyrical content is a lot of it is based on horror movies and things. So I guess
Mhm.
that's where association comes from. Now, the other thing for me though is I there's some slight punk vibes there.
Yes.
They do have that in their sound, and they did exploit that on later albums. There's also slight elements to industrial music, and I can say that because I'm a huge fan of Scacchia's work, and I've heard him on Ministry and all the sub projects that Al Jurgensen created with the Ministry, the whole gang thing. I hear it. So there's repetitive elements that I pick up here that I've heard on Ministry and I've heard on Buck Sainton, that I've heard on 1000 Homo GJs. Like there are elements I hear, but Saki, I agree with you, Billy, is a phenomenal guitar player.
Yeah.
I totally love his stuff.
Ken, don't you find, I mean, for me, I feel the same way about this album as I feel oh geez, I'm having a mind blank now. Just as I said it. A Whiplash album we recently covered.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think the albums are very similar. Like
yeah.
Mhm.
musically, the guitarist is genius, and well, maybe we differ here. Like for me, both albums, I'm not the biggest fan of the vocals, but
Right, right.
musically, they're incredibly strong, and the
Yes, yes.
guitarist steals the show 100%.
That's a good point, Billy. I think you're right. That's a Whiplash is a good comparison to this
Yeah,
band. I think the only difference is that Whiplash they didn't really go into the whole kind of horror themed lyrics,
No.
but
yeah, yeah,
but you're right. The vocals are very tierce on both sides.
yeah.
It's the way the guitars are isolated with because the drumming and the bass kind of tend to be on one level, and it's a bit of a droning kind of style. And then I think they put the cherry on top with the guitarist. So I think I see your point. I very much could see that point.
Yeah. Although I think the bass player here, Casey, I think is just
Casey Orr, yeah.
he's much better than the bass
Oh,
player.
I love Casey Orr.
He's a
He's
highlight
a
of this
legend.
album. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I guarantee he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I like the vocals on this album. I think the vocals for me,
I do too.
and that's what I meant to say too. On their newer stuff, I found it went a lot more crossover and definitely
Yeah.
a lot more punky but
Yeah,
there is
yeah.
elements of punk on this for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I think even in the way that Bruce sings, Bruce Corbett at times is like, he's got this rough, gruff approach.
Yeah.
But he can actually sing. He's a pretty decent singer, and we'll discuss his
Oh, he's
later
got such a
projects.
good deep voice, and it's a little
Yes.
different than in the
Yes.
thrash genre because they're usually a little bit higher.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
he doesn't really have those high registers
No.
at all. Like yeah. You're right about that. It's a good point. That's why they're called like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre of thrash metal. That's what their kind of nickname. And they're
the
from
lyrics. I mean, I'm
What's
not going
that?
to quote a ton of lyrics, but the lyrics on a lot of these songs pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll get into that shortly. All right, so Billy, I'm going to go over to the next question, question two. So, this band didn't have a lot of success, but they seem to have success in other bands. What do you think that? Why do you think Rigor Mortis didn't work long term?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a good explanation for that. I mean, so this is 88. So all the usual, I mean, why Rigor Mortis wasn't more of a success. I mean, we were getting into the 90s. So same story we've talked about before, timing. I do think this band in particular is a lot like Whiplash, where it was a little bit more raw and aggressive. So harder to bring in the intro thrash fan, if you will. I think that hurt them, changing musical taste. But if I look at some of the other bands, right? So probably the most successful side project might have been Ministry. But Ministry was a completely different style of music.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even in the same universe, and that's where the trends were going, like towards industrial and all that stuff. So that makes perfect sense to me that would be more successful. And then we got like Casey doing Guar, and so Guar is like, again, not musically not as extreme as Rigor Mortis, and they bring in the whole visual theatricals, right? So at least in my view, half of Guar's success is completely due to the theatrical.
Yeah,
So,
I had that too.
Right. So again, they could avoid some of that, what was hurting the big thrash band. So that makes sense to me too, that you could have, and those are the two biggest bands, right? And then you have Bruce's War Beast.
That's a good band.
Which is a little bit more on the thrash side, but certainly War Beast, I would argue didn't receive any more interest or success than Rigor Mortis did, probably even less. So yeah, it makes sense that those two big breakout bands, because the styles were so drastically different.
True. That's a good point. Very, very good point. And Jim, you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, pretty much what Billy said. I agree with Gore. I mean, let's be honest. If Gore didn't have all the puppetry and costumes and the whole backstory, and it was just the guys getting up there in t-shirts and jeans, they would be, they probably wouldn't even really gotten signed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
But at War Beast, I like War Beast. I like War Beast, but I don't think. I think this album's better than the War Beast albums.
I agree.
For me, sure. I find like the newer Rigor Mortis, or the latter Rigor Mortis and War Beast, is much more similar. For me, that's how I felt. But I wasn't as I don't know. I just wasn't as. It was good, but it was kind of. It felt like it was done before already, War Beast. But I mean, it still was good. And I think maybe if when was their last album? Came out, what, 2017, I think?
Yeah, because he passed away in 2019.
Yeah, so I think it was Enter the Arena.
Yeah.
Enter the Arena was the last.
Yeah, like I know he passed away. So I think now there would be a much better punch if a War Beast album, like if he obviously hadn't died, and War Beast was coming out with an album in 2025, in the sense, or the last 2 years where thrash and death metal are on the rise quite a bit. I think it might have been just a little bit of timing too. The late 20s, like going from 2015 to COVID, I guess, it was a little bit, bands kind of refining themselves a little bit heading into the 2020s. So in my mind anyways, that's what I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I mean, these bands, I don't think they ever got a lot of attention anyways. I mean, outside of like, I first saw this band when they had their cover ad in Fangoria magazine issue 77. That's where I first seen them, and I was like, what the hell is this? And I was instantly like hooked on it before I even heard the music. So that's kind of neat. But I mean, I guess being in other bands, it does prove that they were special musicians.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, even Hardin Harrison went on to Spediler,
Yeah.
and he's still in that band to this day. So, so I guess everyone, I guess that's a
Well, Ministry and Guar and Warbeast, they're no slouches. Ministry,
no,
no
not
slouches at all. I mean, different genre altogether, but wow, what a you can't. I mean, look at their popularity. I mean, just wow.
Well, look what Mike has done. I mean,
Yeah,
Ministry, 1,000 Homo DJs, Buck Satan,
yeah,
and the 666 Shooters, Revolting Cox, Lard.
yeah,
And Lard is another band I absolutely love, where it's like kind of hardcore punk thrash and Jello Biafra on lead vocals. Great stuff. I totally love that. And Mike shines on that album. So I mean,
oh
like,
yeah.
obviously he's proven to be a versatile guitarist. Unfortunately, the guy died on stage from a heart attack, but it's still pretty crazy. All right, so Jim, we're gonna go back to you for question 3. And I think you've kind of already answered it somewhat. So I was going to ask you if you heard the second album, Rigor Mortis versus the Earth, and then the last album, Slaves to the Grind, or even the EP, Freaks. Have you heard any of that? And what's your thought?
I obviously preparing for this. I'll be honest, Slaves to the Grind, I didn't even know existed until you brought it up, a week and a half ago, and I started prepping for it. I only ever had a copy of this album that we're discussing, and not really much else. Kind of fell off my radar a bit, but listening to it, I thought they were good albums. I mean, nothing like the first one. Slaves to the Grind, grind. That's Slaves to the Grave is it's just, I find it a little more punkier. Yeah. And I just find it a little bit more, I don't know, I don't find it as good as the first album. The second album wasn't too bad. I dug that quite a bit. Yeah, that's a good album. There's some great stuff on there. But I mean, the first one, I mean, there's, I guess Mummified would be a really good one off the second album.
That's a great song. Yeah, yes.
Mummified. I like that. And you still got like Contagious Contamination. Like you still have that horror kind of theme that's going on. And I kind of like that too. And I think there was even like one, there's even a song on there called Dead Fish. Yes. It's just really cool names of songs and stuff. But yeah, the last album, I don't know. I listened to it a few times, probably 2 or 3 times. It was good, but it just, it definitely, I missed it. I don't think I missed too much the way I feel. So.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, don't forget, Slaves to the Grave was released posthumously after his death.
Exactly.
He died in 2012, and they put that out in 2014.
Yeah.
So I know they were still working on it before his death. So I'm assuming they finished it up after he passed away.
Probably, yeah.
I think it's a good album. I like it. But what's your thoughts on these albums, Billy?
Yeah, like for me, I've always been a big fan of the self-title that we're talking about in Freaks.
Yeah. Freaks, yes.
Yeah, like so. Sadly, the first album on vinyl is near impossible to get. Mm-hmm. It's probably up there. It may just be the most expensive thrash album to buy on vinyl, right? There's never been a repress. So that's slightly off topic, but it's very frustrating. But yeah, so in terms of so I stopped at Freak. So I gave the other 2 albums you mentioned a spin this week. So I'm by no means any expert and I'm speaking off of a first impression. I mean, I would say I probably prefer, like Jim, the first album a little bit more. But on the Rigor Mortis versus Earth, I did appreciate the songwriting had more diversity. So it wasn't just like rip your brain type speed.
Yeah.
They had some different components to it. Like even the solos weren't completely 100% shred, right? There were some different stuff in there. So that was kind of cool. I didn't feel there was much of a death metal feel at that point, based on the one listen. The one that caught my attention more oddly is what is Slave to the Grave? Now I'm mixed up. Slave to the Grave or Slaves to the Grind?
No, Slave to the Grave.
It's like, I don't know. For listening to each of them once, I actually preferred that album. And it had the better production of the three.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, I thought Bruce's vocals, I preferred them on that album than anything he's ever done.
Okay.
So yeah, but again, I'm speaking half out of ignorance because I've only listened to them each once.
Well, Bruce left the band after the first album because when they
Yeah.
did Freaks, they brought in Doyle Bright. He's in a band called Special Ops Group, which he's still a part of.
Oh, so it's a
Um,
different singer on
Yeah.
Slave Run?
no. Bruce came back for Slaves to the Grave.
Great. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But Freaks and Versus the Earth is with Doyle Bright. Now on Versus the Earth, they split the vocals. Casey Orr sang songs 3, 5, 9, 10, and 11, and then Doyle Bright sang the other songs. So
I didn't even notice on Versus the
Yeah.
Earth it was a different singer.
yeah, it's two different singers.
Okay.
Casey Orr is okay. I don't mind him. Doyle Bright's not too bad. They do that cover of Ramones' The Psychotherapy, which I think is okay. It's got some. I agree with Jim. The first track, Mummified, is my favorite song on the album. It's so great because it's got this repetitive spike smashing in the background, which is almost very akin to something you would get in industrial music. So that's what I'm saying. You start to hear the industrial music element seep into the sound. It's not prevalent on all of it. It's just elements here and there.
The song Afterbirth of a Midget was kind
of yes. I kind of compare this album to more Gore. They went more kind of a humorous, punky, because Gore is kind of like punk, thrash, humor. So I kind of compare them to Gore more so, but that's just what I think.
I even had I thought about even the cover art. I was thinking,
I love the cover.
Sort of a green Jello meets Gore kind of.
Yes.
Yeah, not the sound, but I kind of got that feeling just from the song titles and just the lyrics and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can see that. Okay, so track 4, I think we've kind of covered this, but I'll just briefly mention it. Jim, the War Beast albums. Did you think Bruce did a good job on those albums overall? Or
I like them. They were just. I mean, I just think I thought they were great. The other album was Destroy, I believe.
Destroy. Probably.
Song on it, Nightmares of the Sky.
It was Crush the Enemy, Destroy, and then Enter the Arena are the 3 albums.
I only have listened to the 2, but I really like Nightmares of the Sky. I thought was a really good track. I thought they were okay. And that one, I believe, came out in 2013, Destroy.
Yeah.
So I thought they were good. Great cover art. I think
yes,
a great name of a band. I just think maybe for me, and I know you couldn't go any further, but I think just at that point in time, maybe the ball was just kind of rolling and getting maybe a little bit bigger. I think now. I mean, obviously, they can't. I know you can't do it now, but the thing is it would have been cool to see where the thrash is in a really good spot right now, in my mind, over the last few years compared to probably in those years. Just my thought.
Well, the one thing about War Beast I don't mind is it's part like Bruce and Gamacide more or less because Scott Shelby from Gamacide is on this album.
That's a good point.
So it's kind of interesting that they teamed up. I like the fact that it's got that Texas connection for me.
Yeah.
I like all 3 albums. I think Crush the Enemy is a pretty solid album. And Billy, so I know you mentioned it. You said you don't mind those 3 albums?
Yeah, they're okay. I never go back to it. I had a copy of Enter the Arena. I played that one today. I don't know. For me, I just hear so much. I don't hear a lot of Rigor Mortis, and I don't hear a lot of Gamacide. That's for sure. What I hear is Sepultura era Chaos AD and Root Metal and the whole damn thing. All I'm reminded of is those 2 albums. It's like they've been influenced for that idea and just keep carrying it forward.
It's a good point.
Like, do you not hear that, Ken? Like the Sepultura, like influence is huge.
Yeah, I know. I can hear it. I it's funny now that you mention it. Thinking about it, yeah, I could hear that. It's
All the
definitely
grooves, the riffs,
yeah.
like the song structure, like it so much reminds me of that.
I agree with you. There's no rigor mortis in this sound.
No, there's not.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that. That's not there. Um, yeah, I can see your point. It's well taken. It will be interesting to see what happens now because now they've changed their name to Beast of War, and I don't know if they have a new singer yet, but they're looking for a singer, and will be releasing
Well, I
the
think
new.
the name changed. If that would be smart. I think that's
Yeah,
smart. Yeah.
yeah. Well, Bruce is
Or
passed.
is it the few fans you have now may not
No, I think it's,
like
you
you?
know what, I think it's commendable that they go into a different, maybe a different direction under a different moniker. I think that would be, I think that's smart. Too many bands are just going under the same, like, I mean, there for a while, two LA Guns working simultaneously, or two Queensryches
Yeah, that's
working
kind of stupid.
because one guy's a member, the other guy's a member. And I get this. No, I think it's like,
A
let's
Great
start
White
something.
as
Yeah.
well. Great White.
Gray White, yeah, another one. Yeah, they're all, I mean, different genres and stuff, but still very confusing. And just, I like the fact that, like, if I bring Motley Crue up, had they brought out the self-titled album under a different name, it probably would have done a hell of a lot better, and we'd probably still have them maybe with John Corabi. Would have been a better fit than Vince after all what happened. Like, I thought that album was really good. That was my third favorite Motley Crue album from the first two. And I mean, there's so much crap they put out. I thought they really hit it with that. It was an updated sound. Obviously, it wouldn't be updated right now, but Corabi's such a fantastic singer, and Mick Mars, and then back then where they were such good players. Mick Mars was. The other two are kind of clowns, but I think it would have gone into a different direction, a more serious direction, and probably would have updated them a lot more. I think this is good. I mean, not the same situation, but I like the fact that they're going to go and it could opportunity to go into a different direction, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good
So
point.
sorry, did you guys say the whole band is moving to the new name or only certain members?
No, the band
Yeah.
is currently it's the same band, probably with a new vocalist.
Yeah, new
They're
vocalist.
changing the name to Beast of War.
Okay, so it's not the same band, I guess, in a way.
Well, technically it won't be because it'll be a different vocalist, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, then that makes more sense. I thought the exact same band members were just changing their name.
I think it's
why
going
I
to
was
be.
saying it was odd.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Billy, but I'm not too sure. From what I couldn't really find much information on. All I know is they made a band name change, but that doesn't mean everyone's coming back. I don't know. It's not known. I know that Scott Shelby's going to be involved in the project. That much I do know. But beyond that, I don't know. So it's hard to say what's going to happen.
Hmm.
So I guess we'll find out.
Especially a vocalist change. I think it could, it's just, I think there's just so much pressure in the sense of, I mean, maybe not necessarily in this, because depending on how popular they were to begin with, like, it's not like we're dealing with a massive name here, but still, fans, I think it'll be good. I think it'll be good. Hopefully they put something out fairly quick.
Yeah, it's because he's passed the album. That last album is 2017.
Yeah.
And then Bruce died in 2019, so there's a gap there already.
Like 6 years, yeah.
Yeah, 6 years. I don't know. Interesting. All right, so the last question is the art question, and I'm going to take the lead on this one. I love the cover art. It always struck me from the first time I seen it in Fango. Court Johnson is the cover artist. Now, for those who don't know, Court is a 1980s skateboard artist. He did work for Powell Peralta. He signs his work VCJ. That's how he always signs his stuff. He has a website. He does graphics. I've always liked it. It has a very graphic feel to it, and the colors are so intense.
Mm-hmm.
The cover was originally released with 3 different variant covers. So the original The original Capitol release was kind of an orange-red background. They had this unofficial Old Metal Records reissue that was in black. And then they had the official 2003 remaster reissue with the deep red color. So I kind of like the original color from the Capitol Records release, but I think it's great. I think it's such a strong image for me. And so I guess if you're a collector and you're looking for the vinyl, good luck. But as Billy said, it's not out there, or at least it's very rare. And if you want to pay the bucks for it, well, you can. I'm sure.
Same with the CDs aren't available either.
Yeah, which is weird because the 2000 remaster, I have a copy of that, but
Yeah.
I'm surprised that it's not available anymore.
No.
It's so weird. Very, very strange. And as I mentioned, their cover appeared in issue 77 of Fangoria magazine. I guess they were smart because the album is so kind of all about horror lyrics. Why not advertise in a horror magazine? Makes sense to do that. So I think it's great. Do you guys like the cover art, Billy?
Yeah, no, I mean, you kind of said it all about the iconic image. The only thing I'll add, it was pretty cool. This past weekend at Hell's Heroes, I saw a guy who, like, it was like probably 30 degrees some of the days there, and he pulls off his T-shirt, and I see that giant image on his back.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty cool. Talk about it. That must have taken him a while to get that put on. But yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow.
incredible. Like, and it was right across his back.
Cool. Nice. Well, he's a devoted fan.
Yeah, I guess.
Jim, any thoughts?
Oh yeah, I love it. I think it's great. It's nice and it's cool, man. I think it just suits the band.
Yeah,
suits the album.
I think it's a great cover.
Yeah,
it's a great cover. I love it. Okay. So we'll wrap the questions up. Thanks, guys. Everyone had some pretty good responses about it, which is great. I'm glad we could talk about a little bit of a history of this band. I'll do just a quick band history. It's not going to be very, very extensive, but they are from Texas. So they were formed in '83 in Fort Worth, Texas. The band does consist of Bruce Corbett on vocals, Mike Scascia on guitars, Casey Orr on bass, and Hardin Harrison on drums. They released the album in '88 and then the EP came out a year later. And then their last album came out in '91, and then after that they called it quits. But they never really did call it quits. They were always kind of still a band without being a band, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
They actually did reform in 2005 with a different vocalist. His name was Dave Woodward, but nothing ever happened. And then eventually they did get to that, putting out that album, a reunion album with Bruce back in the band. And then, of course, Mike dies of a heart attack while on stage. So that's kind of brutal in 2012. And I know that was tough because I know Al Jorgensen actually folded Ministry after his death. Ministry quit playing music for 2 years. Of course, Al didn't stick to that, and like most bands, when they say we're retiring, they always come back. It's just I know Jimmy was commenting on the Metal Voice about Kiss coming back and all that stuff, and like whatever. Like if they want to come back,
absolutely.
Back. Like who fucking cares? If you don't,
I'm not going to go see them, but somebody.
No, but yeah. But obviously, you go in retirement for 2 years, and then you get the hankering to come back on the stage. So let them. Who fucking cares?
These people are performers. That's where their home is. Yeah.
Lifetime performers.
Yeah.
So they never quit. And I think that's the same with this band, like Rigor Mortis. They've never really stopped as a band. They just kind of did other things and still kept in touch. I mean, I know they were even associated with Phil Anslow and his Housecore Records and this horror film festival that he did in 2014. So they've always kind of been in the background. And they also had a side project, which I didn't mention earlier, called the Wizards of Gore, which Bruce did actually front. And they had that band going right up into 2018. And then they stopped. And then, of course, Bruce dies a year later. So it's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll get to the album. The opening song is Welcome to Your Funeral. It's an instrumental. And Billy, what do you think of this?
Yeah, it's I mean it's a good instrumental. I mean it reminds me a lot of I mean my I guess my points are similar to was that last week
Well,
the week before like Into the Lungs of Hell from Megadeth, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
like why are we doing an instrumental first?
True.
Like and I enjoy it. Like it's cool. So should it be up first? And for an instrumental, I mean it's clearly, you know, like musically these guys have some incredible talent. So I'd say the same thing as Megadeth, right? This sounds more like a thrash song without
Mhm.
vocals, and it sounds like there's very little dynamics. Like it's basically a thrash song without vocals. So I don't know why not add vocals and
yeah.
or else be more make the song more dynamic and diverse with the guitar playing. But you know, that being said, like I mean, yeah, that the guitar lead, like as all these songs, right? Like the guitar stands out. Like I think it
Yeah,
kicks in around 225, and
yeah,
then it must go to well past 3 minutes. I mean, that's the highlight of the song. But like again, I just wish thrash bands would be like what like so by this point Metallica would have done like Orion or Orion. Like, so, like, I don't know, like, I like to see a thrash band, like, you know, and I know this is the debut album, right? So
yeah.
they're not going to be as refined, but like when the guitar player is this talented and the bass player, I would just like to see musically, you know, them add some diversity to the song. But maybe that's a small complaint. I still think it's great, and I enjoy it. Just maybe a bit odd for like a ripping record like this to open with an instrumental.
True, true. And Jim?
Yeah, it's good. Same sentiments as Billy in the sense that I very similar to the Megadeth one. It's a thrash song without vocals, and we should have vocals in it. Otherwise, let's do something really like stand out, you know, drum, guitar. If we're going to do an instrumental, let's make sure it's a true instrumental and not just a song without vocals. But I mean, it's pretty cool, and it's kind of a sin it doesn't have vocals with it because I think it'd be a kick-ass song, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. Though it's funny, Bill, you mentioned like the comparison to Megadeth, and I could kind of, I definitely could
Mm-hmm.
see that now. I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but now that you bring it up, it's yeah, I can see that. That's a very good comparison for the two songs. I like it. It's fast. It's hard hitting. There's lots of energy to it. No frills. It's just we get to the point, and then you know
Yeah.
you get that one section with the solo, which is
Yeah.
great. Short, simple, sweet, but you know I don't mind it. But I agree. I think it should have had some lyrics to it. I think it would have been a much better song with the lyrics. But
Do you guys remember? Did the first Whiplash album start with an instrumental?
no, it was a
Oh,
song.
okay,
Yeah.
No,
okay.
they went with the song. I remember that. Yeah, they. I don't think they even had an instrumental on their
Yeah,
album.
maybe not. I don't remember.
No.
I don't
Okay.
think so. All right, so we're going to go to track number two, and that's Demons. Jim, what do you think of Demons?
Yeah, this is a wicked song. I mean, I like it's got kind of a lighter intro. The first song, even though it was an instrumental, had a bit of a doomy intro. But this has a lighter intro, and then at 49 seconds, the song just rips in. At about a minute 20, a minute 19, the vocals start up. And the vocals are interesting because I think people with this band either like the vocals or they don't like the vocals. I like the vocals, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it matches what I like about them. And I liked Whiplash vocals as well. Um, I don't. I like when my thrash albums have got some different vocalization to it that gives me a little bit of difference but just something different. And I think this has it. I really like it. This is a cool, heavy, fast song, and I think the speed of the song just kind of gets you set for like what's about to come throughout the whole album.
Mhm.
It's got that fast chug. It's got some great guitar riffs. That 220. It's got that really killer guitar solo. Like Billy says, the guitar work on this album stands out. And there's a lot of heavy drum tracks on this album as well. Some
yeah.
great bass.
I was gonna say
I
that.
think it's could be like a. This falls under the same thing as Whiplash and a few other. I kind of throw them into a C category. of thrash bands. So you have the A, which would be maybe the big four plus a couple of really good ones like maybe Testament or Testament, Overkill, maybe a few of the other ones that we throw into maybe the top 6 or top 8. And then there's a B category, maybe the Forbiddens and whatnot. And then these guys kind of bring up the C category, even though this album is super strong and is probably better material than some of the stuff in the A category. And it pisses me off that they didn't get as famous. And maybe it could be just it was a little bit different with the vocals. I'm not sure. Maybe it was just the timing. I mean, 87 was pretty strong, but the timing in the sense of maybe they didn't get the support from a record company and outside influences that we really don't know about. But this is a killer album. And this song is a great song. Not one of my favorites on the album, but still a killer song. But there's so many really top-notch songs on this. This would fall into the middle of the pack for me.
Okay. I like this song though myself.
Yeah.
I like the ending with the shouting of the demons 3 times at the end. I think that's great. It's like, oh, what are you trying to call some kind of evil spirit? I don't know. It's interesting ending. So Billy, what do you think about demons?
Yeah, no, I like it. I think you guys hit on a lot of the points. I mean, kind of the melodic intro. We don't get a lot of like songwriting variety on this record. Maybe Jim, that's one of the things to the point you were raising.
Yeah.
Like this thing is like the songs are almost like a formula right through. There's a couple that deviate slightly, but they all follow the exact same plan and all have the like amazing solo in the middle and like they're very similar and like pacing is similar. Again, a few exceptions, but so it could be considered a bit repetitive, but it's still a lot of great stuff. So again, that's being picky. But yeah, like for me, I again, that's why I compare it back to Whiplash. Like I find that, like for me, I'm not the biggest Bruce vocal fan, so vocals are kind of average for me on it. But yeah, like for this thing, like again, like in the middle, like 220, like when the guitar solo comes in, like it just totally saves every song on the record, whether I'm the big fan or not a big fan. And yeah, I agree with Ken, like the shouting of the demons, and then we kind of end like we started the slower melodic guitar, but kind of like a mini like drum solo towards the end too. Yeah, I think it's a good song, a little bit more diversity in it, but yeah, I mean it's following a pattern. The first few songs follow a similar pattern.
Well, you know what? They don't have a lot of tempo changes. That's the one thing.
No, like that's what I mean. Like this pattern.
Yeah.
Like by the end of the album, I don't want to say bored, but I always feel like okay, one listen's enough.
True. I could see that.
In a row.
But you know what though? It's still a short enough album. If the songs were like 7-8 minutes, we'd all be bored probably after a while.
Yeah.
But I think the pacing and the songs themselves, like 3, 4, 5 minutes, I think that's good for what this kind of music is. Sort of like what you got with Whiplash as well. So you know what you're getting from beginning, middle to end.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, so Bodily Dismemberment is probably one song I think we all like. Billy, take us off with this one. What do you think of it?
Yeah, no, I like it. It has some great some great riffs in there, some really good I mean not just guitar, bass chug. Like and all these so many of these songs, the bass playing is so pivotal. Like it's so unique like for thrash at the time to have the bass this prominent. So it's the exact opposite of Injustice for All. But yeah, and although we say that a lot of the songs don't have a lot of tempo changes, but this one kind of has a cool one around 350, a little bit more punk feel, crossover feel kicks in. And then, yeah, at like 4 minutes, the best part of the song, again, I don't want to sound repetitive, but it's the guitar leads, the bass playing. It's just like, for me, it's I'll stick around and listen to anything to get to that like 1 minute instrumental section that sits in every song because it's so damn good. But yeah, like so good. Like I enjoy it. I think it's a good song. Yeah.
Cool. Now, for me, I'll let you go in a sec, Jim. I just wanted to bring this point up. Lyrically, it's nasty. It's in your face, but the whole point of the song is that this gentleman is having, I'm assuming, his fun moment with his lady, and he decides to cut her open and cut her up. So it's nasty. So I mean, I think it's kind of dark humor, tongue in cheek. Like, there's no need to worry, bitch. Just lay there and relax. And as you reach your climax, I'll be reaching for my axe. So great. With 5 easy slices, you're in 6 lovely pieces, bottle dismemberment as passion increases. I love it. It's great. I just like it.
I can't say I'm a big fan of those lyrics, but anyways.
Oh, I love the lyrics. I think they're great. But I'll let you go, Jim, because I know this is a song you like as well.
Yeah, I mean, the lyrical content on this, I mean, what does it start off with? Step into my room, my dear. I mean, it's almost like a slasher flick put to music.
Yes, yes.
So you can envision it. As a young kid, I'd be watching these slasher movies, and this is just a narrative to it. Yeah. So I really like it. I think this, to me, one of my favorite songs. So I have 6 number ones, which are all tied for number 1 on this album. This is one of them. I think this would be, if Iron Maiden was a thrash band, this would be a song that would sound like Iron Maiden if they were a thrash band.
Yeah,
not in the vocals, but in the construction of the song and the musicianship. Right, and even how he says, like, step into the room, my dear. Sounds maybe something Paul Di'Anno would sing off the first 2 albums. Yeah. Found it very similar to that, and I like it, but it's a thrash version. I mean, this thing is heavy, fast. It's got that kind of lo-fi guitar intro, which I really like. Something bad is going to happen, and that's what it's all about. And I mean, you guys have said it all, but this is one of my favorite ones. And I can't believe with the lyrical content, this never got slapped with any sort of issue back in night. It must have flew so under the radar that maybe the PMRC or whatnot didn't see it. Because that's compared to like some of the stuff on the Filthy 15, like She-Bop. I mean, give me a break here. This has got She-Bop beat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear you.
But it's wicked. A horror fan in me loves this, and I think it's like a B horror movie put to music.
Well, you know why I like it. I'm in the same boat as you. So
yeah.
That's why I picked this album for this reason. So we'll stick with you, Jim, for 4. Condemned to Hell. What do you think of it?
This is really cool song. So I get out of this with the sound, the musicianship. It's got kind of a Venom old school sound to it, and parts of it has like a Tom Araya vocal sound kind of mixed. It's kind of like if you had an old Venom album and maybe the first Slayer CD kind of melded together, you kind of get this. Obviously a bit better of a sound, but you would get this. I love the Kill chorus in it. It's really, really cool. I mean, it's got wicked, the guitars, the riff. It's really, I find it's diversified musically, and it kind of shows off how diversified the band is in this track. Like when you listen to this track, it's not just, and it's as we go throughout the album, I find the melody gets a little bit more heavy, but there's also a melody to it as the songs progress. And this is kind of the start of that. I really, really like the song.
Well, there's actually a tempo change more so towards the end, which is like, oh, okay, we get something unique here.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is great because I again, like when you read the lyrics and you look at it from, I guess, a horror fan's perspective, it's all about this kind of unconventional person. He's embracing his immoral transgressions, and then he knows he's gonna be condemned to hell for it. I love it.
But you know what? This band propels themselves ahead of Whiplash in my mind because the writing is that much better. I find it's much more, and I like the fact that it's a generalized theme going throughout the whole album. It's more of a horror theme, and I like that they're not jumping around. They're not going to go into deforestation in the next song and maybe abortion in the song. Well, maybe a type of abortion, I guess, throughout the song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean they're definitely before Cannibal Corpse kind of thing.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah,
they're just kind of before Cannibal Corpse became a thing, and then they started their stuff. But you're right. It is a good song. What do you think, Billy?
Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of said everything, not much more to add. I think it's good. For me, it has a bit of a crossover feel to it, but
Mhm.
Yeah.
and kind of the best part is the bass solo that sort of plays along with the guitar, but like around the 2 minute mark. But yeah, I mean, it's for me musically, it's so similar to the last three. Uh,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I say the same thing about this as I did the previous few.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. It's definitely got a formula for sure. My favorite song is Wizard of Gore, which is track 5.
One of
And I
mine.
know, and I love it because I know they're basically taking it from the movie, the Herschel Gordon Lewis movie, The Wizard of Gore. And if anyone hasn't seen that movie, it
I
came out in
haven't seen it.
1970. It's kind of gory, but it's about this character, this guy who's known as Montag the Magician. And basically he goes to perform acts on stage, but they're mutilation of victims. So it always like picks a female victim and then he does gross shit on stage. It's a fun movie, but if you're familiar with Herschel Gordon Lewis, you know it's the kind of film that he would make. But I like the fact that they wrote this song about it. It's just so great. It actually reminds. I'm going back to your point, Jim, about the Iron Maiden references.
Mhm.
It actually reminds me a bit of Phantom of Opera.
Mhm.
The opening has that da, 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 just the way it starts
Yes.
and that bass line, and it's kind of quirky at the start. And it just reminds me of Phantom of the Opera, very much how that starts the same way. Like Harris had that da, 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 at the beginning to really set it up. I get that here. So maybe they're conscious of that kind of stuff. I don't know, but I think it's a great song. I love. There's a lot of great reverb on the vocals, which I really like. It's so strong. So Billy, we'll go back to you. What do you think of Wizard of Gore?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. And I
Okay.
think this song probably has the most songwriting diversity in it. Like you mentioned the intro, like that's pretty cool. Like the intricate guitar and bass work. And there's some very delicate like cymbal work
Mhm.
Mhm.
happening in that intro, right? You don't hear that anywhere else on this album. That sort of delicate approach. But then it goes immediately rips into like intensity and I think this is some of the most aggressive drumming on the album in the fast
Mhm.
parts. I think the drumming is not only fast, but it's maybe some of the better drum work. There's some cool drum fills happening throughout. You mentioned it, the reverb. I mean, I said there's like an echo effect on the vocals. Like I thought that works well, like on Bruce's vocals. Like 138, another awesome musical section. But I kind of like where you get that musical section with the bass and guitars leading, and then it gets really heavier, like right after the solo. And you could say that sort of has a proto death feel, I think, back to our earlier discussion. This is probably my favorite, like, verse into the chorus thing. I think it's
Right.
probably the most memorable. And yeah, so for me, I just think songwriting wise, this is probably the best on the record, just in terms of variety and songwriting.
Well, I agree. I love this song. Jim?
Yeah. This and the next, I think it said this group of 4 songs are just
Okay.
phenomenal. I like it. This is a fast song, but I love that intro. It's same thing.
Yeah.
It gives me that Maiden vibe as well, and it's more of a classical metal vibe going into it. And then the drums hit in. It's got a wicked bass line in it, and no, I really like it. I haven't seen the movie, and I didn't know it was like written about a movie until I
Yeah.
saw
Yeah.
your little short kind of message today and figured it out that way. But yeah, it's real, and it's got a wicked song title. I love it. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. No, this is one of my favorites on the album.
And they basically named a side project called The Wizard of Gore as their down the road. So it's kind of interesting how they love this movie, obviously. So Jim, we'll stick with you for track 6, The Shroud of
Oh,
Gloom. What do you
this
think
is
of
a brutal, brutal song.
it?
Like, I love this song. This is another one of my favorites. It's got that heavy guitar intro, and it's just a fast. This is a total drum track as well. Another fast song, and the lyrics are just really, really tight in this for brutality. It just continues. I mean, it's just so cool. You know, you are getting a little bit repetitiveness in the but I like the repetitiveness because this
Mhm.
group of songs are just that good.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, for sure. I think lyrically I like it. It's funny because the person that they're the main protagonist they're singing about is actually dead and is coming back for vengeance and death and the whole supernatural thing. So I like it for that. I think it's great, and that's why the lyrics refer to him as the Shroud of Gloom,
yeah.
come back for revenge against the living. So I think it's kind of again, it falls under the horror theme for me. It's a cool song for sure. And Billy, what did you want to add to the song?
Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of said it. I don't really have much more to add. Um, yeah, it has all the components that make the band good. So yeah, it's good.
Well,
Okay, cool.
I got to read one lyric here. I like
Yeah,
the
go for
what
it.
is it? Lying rigid on a table trying to move. I'm not able. On my face, a bloodstained cloth. I am dead, but I am so pissed off. I mean, it's just really. This is 1987. Me, 16-year-old. These
Yeah.
lyrics are awesome. Really, really awesome.
Yep. Yep. And then when you get to track 7, Die in Pain,
Yeah,
they've got some great lyrics like born on a battlefield and
yeah,
baptized in blood. You took your first steps in the red reeking mud. What
yeah,
a that's such a great line. Killed your first man at the age of 13. Life's lessons taught you to be cruel and mean.
yeah.
Love it. That's so great. I love it. So with that being said, I'll let Billy jump in here. What do you think of Die in Pain, Billy?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I don't think it differs a whole lot from like Shroud of Gloom. It kind of continues in that style. Like I do think I mentioned this song earlier. This has that death metal like Bruce scream to open the track. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of cool, but uh yeah, again, it's sort of I don't want to sound repetitive and repeat the same stuff, but this one does. I do like the gang vocals are pretty
Yeah.
good. The shouting "Die in Pain" like that even feels like very death metal like the way they do that. But again, I'm not going to bring up the solo section which seals the deal because that's in every single song, and I've said it 6 times. So yeah, it's a good track.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. Like the solos are great. And I think the one other thing that I like about it is the end. The song gets really almost going into death metal
Yeah.
territory.
Yeah, it does.
Bruce is so rabid, and it's like, oh, this is the song that really has the most, I guess, death metal panache, to say to speak, for me. I don't know. I like the song too. What do you think of this song, Billy? I
Yeah,
mean,
it's like
Jim.
a war song. It's really cool, like a battle song. It kind of like just it's got for me, it's got kind of a die by the sword Slayer vibe to it, but definitely has a death metal like direction that you guys have been talking about. But I love all of your prayers are said in vain. You live by the blade, die by the same, die in pain. I mean, it's just it kind of I don't know if it reminds me of like just some of the Metallica songs about war and that, like maybe
Somewhat.
Leper
Yeah.
Messiah and stuff like that. Like it's really, really got good lyrics to it. And I think it's a great track. It's one of my favorites in this group of my favorites.
Yeah. It's nasty. It's
Yeah.
got nastiness to it, but then all the songs have it to some degree. But when you get to track 8, which is Vampire, I think this is like lyrically, you can
Oh,
tell what they're going to say in this song. It's like blood on the floor, blood in my mouth. I love the taste of death. I mean, yeah, okay, we get it, we get the point of it. But take it away, Jim.
yeah. I mean that bass intro is amazing. It's a heavy, fast song. You've got the vocals cut in, I think, around 120. But what I like about it is, I mean, it's obviously the story of a vampire.
Yes.
And I love, though, how it's kind of funny because 1980s lyrics compared to now, like fangs are injected, draining her blood. The whore lies in pain. Like we just pick on the poor women in these songs. Like
Yes.
they're victims, but we're just gonna call them names as they're dying.
Yeah.
Like it's so typical, but really, really good. Blood on the floor, blood in my mouth. I love the taste of death. Decaying afterbirth falls from her face. Like it's just like, holy cow, this just keeps going and going. But I think it's it's really neat, and I love the end. To all of you people who don't believe in my sorcery from hell, held in my bondage and tortured to death, and you will rot. I think that's great. I mean, it's a great track, and I mean, it fits in with the whole theme of the album. One of my favorites. So
Cool.
I have
Billy?
one more favorite after this, but it's another
Yes.
couple away. But yeah,
Yeah.
this was a great
Billy?
one.
Yeah, no, this is one of my favorites
Oh, cool.
as
Okay.
well. Oddly enough, this is actually I like Bruce's vocals
Okay.
the most on this song. So I don't know why, but like it clicks with me much better here. Yeah, one of the better drum tracks, a great memorable chorus. I really like the again the instrumental section at 226. Like the lead work for me is a little neoclassical.
Yeah,
It shifts a bit on this song. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. And I also like it's a small thing, but it works so well. Like during the guitar solo, there's like these dramatic drum beats that are
Yeah.
kind of happening. It's a simple little thing, but it's like incredibly effective. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's my second favorite or my third favorite song.
Yeah. I can see what you're saying. Like in 3 minutes, you get that background. Yeah, I hear it too. It's great. It's just a little something extra just to give the song a little extra oomph. And even at the end, when he repeats the line, "You will rot" at the end, like I love that. It's like it just caps off a great song. I like the song a lot. It's pretty decent. And track number 9, Reanimator. Now, of course, this is based on the Reanimator, the movie. So, the famous H.P. Lovecraft short detailing Herbert West, who develops a serum to bring back the dead. I love this song too. It has a lot of great elements for me in the song that I totally love. It's great. Reanimator, reanimate me. I love how he repeats that in the chorus over and over and over. It's so great. What do you think, Jim?
yeah. Other than the little snippet at the start, I knew it probably came from a movie. I
It's
kind of
from Reanimator.
being a less knowledgeable horror freak, I thought more of a Frankenstein type deal where you got this guy who's bringing back somebody from the morgue, trying out his stuff on them, and then bringing them back as zombies. Obviously, from how it goes, he has conquered brain death. Welcome back to life. I mean, it's kind of neat. No, I like it. It's a really good, and it just keeps going. So, like, it's almost like we're covering all the horror genres here. Like we went from vampires to maybe now of loosely, in my mind, more of a Frankenstein mad scientist type deal. Yeah, it's a great song. I like it.
Yeah, the sample at the start is Herbert's confronted and she's like, "You killed him," and he's like, "No, I gave him life."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's so great. It's a great movie, but yeah, I love this song for that reason. What do you think of it, Billy?
Yeah, no, it's a good track. Like I don't think it's strong as what was before it and what comes after it. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. Like it's excellent musically, and it is one of the choruses that stick with you a little easier. So it's pretty catchy in that way. So yeah, I think it's a good track.
Cool. Yeah, I like this song. I think it's great. Now, I think we all kind of agree with track 10, Slow Death. It's got these lyrics: "Your clothes will be ripped away. The madman starts to play. You'll be skinned alive, cooked in fire till you die." This song is pretty much a reference to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And if they're going to make an album with this, you got to reference that movie, which the song certainly does. So we'll take it away with you, Billy. What do you think of Slow Death?
Yeah, no, good. Yeah, it's one of my other like top three or top four songs. It kind of has that big like scream at the beginning. Definitely a proto death feel to it. But here we get like a unique tempo change, right? So at 225, this is the first time where we go down to, like a slower, like almost doomy type feel to it, right? The chugging bass and the sort of solo running over it. So that's really good. And like there's some good technical musical components. So this is it gives the song some good diversity, but then it quickly transitions back into like heavy and aggressiveness to close the track. Like really, there's definitely some wild screams throughout this one. But yeah, it's a good track, and I like it because it's not like as cookie cutter as some of the others. Like there's more tempo and diversity changes here.
Well, I think adding the samples from the movie help too.
Mhm.
So you get that moment when Chop Top is he's got the girl and he's showing her to Grandpa, and he's like, "What do you think, Grandpa?" And it's kind of funny in the movie, but I like that. So it kind of breaks it up, and then you hear her screaming in the background as the tempo changes. So I think they work it well. They knew how to work it well with, I guess, the key moments in the movie. And I even like the ending when it says, "Don't skip the meat."
Yeah.
That's so great. I love it. Such a great song. What do you think, Jim?
Well, I was going to start with that. Don't skip on the meat part, but no, it's pretty cool. I mean, musically, you guys have hit it all. But I mean, it's got a pretty good nod to Rigor Mortis here. When Rigor Mortis sets in, we'll do the whole motherfucking thing again. I
Yeah.
like the part where it goes, "Now you know slow death. All you fear, slow death. As you wait, slow death. It's coming near." I mean, it's pretty cool lyrically and a pretty heavy song. I mean, you guys hit it all. This is one of my favorites on the album, definitely.
Yeah, it's a great closer to end
Yeah,
it, to me. Now, I know on the expanded edition, there are
yeah.
3 additional songs. They're not that great. We can go over them quickly because they weren't on the original release. But they did Foaming at the Mouth, Grudge Fuck, and Spivey. Um, out of these 3 songs, I only really like Foaming at the Mouth. It's
Same here.
pretty
Same.
solid. Grudge Fuck is like kind of a raw demo sounding song, and
Yeah.
Spivey, I don't know what's going on. I know it's an unreleased track, and it's kind of quirky, and it's okay. It's got a jam feel to it. I'm not sure why that track was released, but I mean, I don't
Well,
know.
I think Foaming at the Mouth, you had to have it because you got kind of a werewolf thing.
Yes, yes,
You've hit everything else, so why not throw that in on the pile, you know? But that's a pretty good. I don't mind it. I think it's good.
yeah,
Looking sick on the streets, slobber drips, mad disease sent from you, hell on my lips. It's got great lyrics.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I'm not sure why it was
and
left
it's
off the
pretty
album.
melodic too.
Mm-hmm. You're right. You're right. Any thoughts on these songs, Billy?
Yeah, the last two are garbage, and
Yeah.
Foaming at the Mouth is pretty good. I mean, it fits in the album perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would think the same. Yeah, that was exactly my feeling too. I'm not sure what Grudge Fuck's about, but it's weird.
yeah. I
And
mean,
it's the vocals are so rabid at times. It's like, well, I don't even know what he's saying. This is weird. Anyways, so that's the album. I think it's a really good album. To me, if I have to rate it, it's a 10 10 for me. I'm sorry, it's one of my favorite kind of sort of horror metal. It suits my website, horror metal sounds, and that's why I love it so much. It's great for me. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we move into the final segment?
nothing for me.
I'm good.
Okay. All right, cool. All right. So this is interesting. I know we don't get a chance to talk about death metal very often. And since this album came out in '88 and it's got ties to death metal, I originally pitched you guys like, oh, why don't we do our favorite death metal albums of '88? But then Billy made a point of saying, well, there isn't much to pick from. And he's right. He's totally right. Not '88's not a great year. I mean, it's the start of like death and stuff, but really, there's not a lot to pick from. So we came up with the idea of picking our favorite death metal debut album. So who wants to go first with this one?
I could go first.
Sure.
For Billy.
Okay, so I mean, so many great albums to choose from. I mean, thrash is my first love, but death metal is very close second. So yeah, like I mean, 89, 90, 91 has so many masterpieces. So I started with Obituary, and then I changed my mind, and then I was going to do Morbid Angel, and then I thought, maybe something even more brutal. So I picked
Nice.
We're going
Suffocation.
Suffocation, Effigy of the Forgotten from 1991. I mean, this, and I also love, well, the first three are great, but probably my favorite album by the band is the third album, Pierce from Within. But this debut is incredible, right? It's brutal death metal. I mean, it's in terms of brutality, I mean, it's a step above all the other sort of big debuts for most of the popular bands. But and it's interesting, right? Because so they come from like New York. I mean, we always think Florida when we think death metal, but there was a real brutal scene like in New York. I mean,
Yeah.
you had Suffocation, but you
And the
also
corpse.
had Immolation, which is very similar, Incantation. So there was this whole other sort of New York thing going on. But what I like most about Suffocation is the music's pretty technical. And so since I like tech thrash and this is a perfect fit for me. The songwriting, not cookie cutter. There's some complexity to it, lots of tempo and sudden time changes. I mean, this has one of the best death metal guitarists and longest serving Terrence Hobbs, who's like a guitar legend. So musically, the whole band was strong from day one. I mean, I love Frank Mullen's vocals. Just so aggressive. Not the whereas some were doing the slow and agonized growls. He was more of a barking, aggressive, angry approach. And so, yeah, I mean, I was gonna call out some of the strong songs, but I like the whole album. Don't really have any weak songs. I think the material stands the test of time. This is as exciting to listen to today as it was when I bought it back in like the early 90s. So that's cool. And the band's still going strong. I mean, albeit with different band members along the way, different singer, but it's still, I think they're still putting out killer albums. And so if by chance you don't know this debut album, I think any death metal fan must have it in their collection.
Yeah, and that
Wicked.
album cover is awesome too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you'd like the album cover, Ken.
That artist, Dan, the artist Dan, he did so many of those kind of great album death metal covers. Great. I think it's awesome.
Yep.
Cool. All right, Jim, what's your pick?
Yeah, I went with like kind of a little bit off the plot a little bit. Just I went with Dismember from Sweden. So
Nice.
I think this album's that I'm gonna pick is probably in my top five. Like an ever flowing stream, probably in my top five death metal albums of all time. I really like this band. I mean, they're part of the Swedish Big Four. I guess you could throw them in Entombed, Grave, and Unleashed, and these guys. So they started this in 1988 to 2011, then split, got back together in 2019. But they haven't had anything out, I think, since 2008. This album came out in May of 1991. And it is considered one of the best death metal albums of all time and one of the best debuts of all time. It's just these guys really put Swedish death metal on the map. And it got a ton of really good ratings. I believe it was in Decibel magazine 2010. It went into their metal album Hall of Fame. Yeah, so I mean, really, really cool. Really cool album. There's so many good songs on this. Dismembered, Skinner Alive, Sickening Art, and So Is Life. It's such a strong, strong album that it's pretty cool. And then the second album, I mean, they've had so many. They had an EP after this, which was Pieces, which was really, really good. And then they came out with that Indecent and Obscene with kind of the chest carved open with their logo in it. And it's and they had some really good, the newer stuff's kind of still pretty death orientated, but maybe a little bit less. It's just not as the first three albums. Massive Killing Capacity, the third album, is another great album by them. And then after that, they came out in '97 with one that was called Death Metal. It's kind of not as good as the other ones. It's still a good album. Yeah. but not as good as the first three. And that first album is just phenomenal. I think they're an underrated band.
Yep.
From what I understand, they're still together.
Yep.
But I don't know. I'm hoping maybe something will come out soon, or maybe they're going to put something out. I don't know. They're probably just, I would assume, doing some festivals and whatnot.
Well, they still play live.
Yeah, they do, but nothing new since I think 2008. So
It's been a while.
would be cool for them to do that again too. Like, I think the legacy of this album, I mean, there's so many, like Entombs had some great stuff too. There's just so much. I love Floridian death metal, is probably my favorite of the genre, but there's so many other bands, especially European bands that have put themselves on the map as well, and kind of followed in those footsteps as well. The same as Death and Obituary, and that, just putting their spin on it. But this album's got great writing. It's brutal, and I just love it. I think and I love the cover art as well too. It's
that
really,
cover's
really
great.
Cool. Yeah. Really cool. And yeah.
What do you think of Death Breath? You ever heard them?
No, I haven't.
Well, you should give them a try. If you like Swedish death metal, it's a combination of a lot of different members, like Nicky Anderson from Entombs in this band.
Oh, okay.
Give that a go. You'll love it. That first album, Death Breath. Wow.
Yeah.
Totally great. Very like horrific themes. Check it out.
Writing that down.
Yeah, check it out. You'll like it. Second album isn't so great, but the first album is. I love that album. It's such a great album.
Yeah.
You have that album, Billy?
Yeah.
You have. Oh, you okay?
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, I like that. I like it a lot. It's very horror themed lyrics all the way through it. Murders, axe murders, killings, you name it, you'll get it in that album. But it's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so I picked Death, Scream, Bloody Gore. And I kind of picked them mainly because it sort of fit into the theme of what we're talking about tonight with death metal. And since this is like arguably considered to be the first true death metal album, I kind of thought we should talk about it a little bit.
Absolutely.
I mean, Chuck is a legend. We don't really need to go into much about Chuck. We know what he's about, what he started with. What I find amazing about this album, though, is that he pretty much did everything here. He sang, he played guitar, he did the bass, and he had Chris Reifert on drums. I know they had another guitarist that was credited on the album, but he never really played on the album. Apparently, Chuck did everything. So you got to admire a dude for doing all that kind of stuff. And this album is so like horror related. Every song, like Regurgitated Guts, which is like inspired from the film City of the Dead. Beyond the Unholy Grave, which is 1979 Zombie. And then Torn to Pieces is from a movie called Make Them Die Slowly. And then, of course, the song Evil Dead from Evil Dead, which is my favorite song on the album. And then, of course, Scream Bloody Gore, the title track, which is based on Reanimator. So it's kind of cool that they tie in all these horrific themes. I think this album is great. That cover by Ed Repka, I love that cover. It's so iconic.
Wicked.
Yeah, it's such a wicked cover. And, Randy Burns produced it. I mean, it's got that Floridian death metal sound at the start of it all. It's great. And it started, a movement of death metal, more or less, because right after this, they do Leprosy in 88, which I know a lot of people think it's one of their greatest albums ever, which I would agree it is. I still prefer Spiritual Healing. But yeah, it's such a great album. This band is so great. I mean, it's a shame that he's passed on, but the legacy that he's left will never be topped by any other death metal band.
You have that lineup there, Ken, on the if you've got the CD there. What were the members?
So it's basically Chuck, Chris, and the other guitar player was John Hend.
Oh, okay, so yeah, it's even before.
Right? But apparently, like I said, they have a picture of him in the album sleeve, but he never actually played on the album.
Yeah.
What I heard. I'm not sure why the record label decided to throw him on there. But he was in the band. He was in the band, I think, on the early demo stages. But from my understanding, Chuck recorded everything.
It says he's credited on the album as rhythm guitar, but did not perform on the album or during any live performance.
Right. Yeah. So Chuck pretty much did everything: bass, guitar, and then vocals. And then there was the only album that Chris was on because Chris left the band right after this. But
we certainly know it was a revolving door musician the entire career.
Yeah.
Oh, but then Chris went on to form his own band. I mean, so it's like, but yeah. I mean, a revolving lineup. But you know what? It never really mattered because every Death album was special.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. You can
and he always knew how to find good players to bring into the band.
Yeah, you can never say that the member change hurt them like you do any bands. Yeah, no way. It made them better, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I think every album's diverse. Like, the start you get a lot of more death thrash, and then it kind of moves into more like prolific, kind of progressive death metal, and it's great. And and he goes to the last album where it's clean vocals and it's just like traditional metal. But you got to give the guy credit; he never gave up.
Yeah, and none of the members he got were slouches either for any album. No. They were all from other death metal bands. Like it was really cool, and I kind of got the feeling watching some death documentaries, like just some stuff I see there, that a lot of them knew that's how it was going to be. Like going into it, they knew that they might be just an album or just a tour or something like that. So
what always blew me is the fact that Chuck actually went to Toronto.
And
it never worked out. Like I'm like, I can't believe he would do that. Like, wow. No, nothing against Slaughter. I like Slaughter, but yeah, I just, it's so weird that he would go all the way to Toronto, move there, join the band, and then it doesn't work out.
Well, a win for Slaughter, that's for sure. More of a win for them than it was.
Yeah. True. Yeah, that's true. Chuck is his own man. He's never been. That's the one thing I admire about him is that he'll always be a death metal legend, no matter what happens in the world or even in the annals of death metal music. He'll always be remembered for that, for the legacy that he left with the band. But I wish I would have saw him live. That sucks. I never saw the guy live.
I think his passion for the movement, like it's real. Compared to like, you can tell when somebody's being a bit fake, but the fans were number one, the quality of music, he wanted it a certain way. I totally respect that. And I think he hit it on all marks.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
It would just be cool to know where he would have wins, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Could he be doing jazz at this point?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he could have been.
Or his own, like, would he write his own, like, orchestral piece? Or, like, where would he have ended up?
It would have been a rock opera set to, some sort of death metal / as he was getting into the Control Denied, like, I don't know. I think the ceiling, there's no ceiling on that guy. There was no ceiling,
I still think he would have stuck to death metal. I don't know. I have a feeling he still would have been death metal.
Oh yeah.
His number one passion. But I agree, Billy. I mean, who knows? He could have did jazz fusion albums if he was so inclined to do that. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility with his passion and his dedication to music. So
yeah, I mean, he was definitely stepping away, right? Because he didn't do the vocals in Control Denied.
That's right.
He felt he was too death metal to do the vocals.
Yeah,
he wanted.
Although I did like the last death album that they put out, Perseverance. I love
it's fantastic.
Oh, that was a good album.
Yeah.
That's incredible, and his vocals are great on that, and the sound overall is incredible. I love that album.
Yeah, that album. I would like to hear what he thinks of death metal today. Like, I'd like to hear him hear the newer bands, maybe and how he got to see some of how his legacy really grew the genre, but I think now it's just like, wow. I mean, everybody who talks, I consider Scream Blood Igor the first death metal album. That's just the way I feel.
Well, I think most people will consider that. Yeah. I mean, I know you got Possessed, some will debate Possessed, but I've always thought that this album is the true first death metal.
Like a pure death metal,
I would agree with that.
And we all know Floridian death metal is like the birthplace of,
Yep. Most definitely.
It must be the humidity.
Maybe. Or they just it's in the water.
Yeah.
Something in the water, maybe. All right, guys. I do appreciate you guys joining me for this one because it's one of my favorite albums, and I'm glad we
Fun.
all got a chance to talk about it, and you got a chance to share your thoughts and feelings about it. Now, next week, Jim will be back in the chair here, lead chair. So, Jim, take it away. What's going on next week?
We're going to do the Testament's debut, The Legacy, in 1987, I believe. So we're going to be tackling that one and lots of good conversation around that because, you know, the members going into that album were kind of, everything was kind of weird, including the name. So it's going to be really cool conversation. So.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Great album, too.
Yeah.
All right, guys. With that being said, we'll sign off for tonight and we'll see everybody next week.
Good night.
Take care.
All right. Have a good night.